Good marvelous morning. I just had the most randomest idea, so I quickly ran and grabbed my camera. I'm actually going to break down the deck that I used to play in the tournament to go 3-1, and the reason I want to break it down is I kind of want to show why I really like the deck and what I use, I basically use that deck to look for the things that I want other decks that I play. Because I usually find in Keyforge that you don't necessarily need an extremely, you set out to find an extremely good deck. You really have to find a deck that fits the way that you like to play. There was a situation recently, I wasn't totally involved in it, but it was some friends talking about how they had two really good decks, but when they would switch decks, they would find it hard to play even if they got used to the deck and learned the deck. It just didn't fit their playstyle. So that kind of made me think that Keyforge is really more of a game based on playstyles. Like if the Ninja Turtles were to switch weapons, yeah, they're all really good weapons, but they're better weapons in the hands of someone who's trained and learned and actually loves that particular style. So I'm gonna just go through my deck, show it off a little bit, and just kind of talk about what I like about it, what I look for in the deck as far as dealing with situations and things like that. There's so much other Keyforge stuff that might be useful tips. I don't know, I probably doubt it. But I have high hopes that maybe one person might actually like this, and then maybe one person might actually be able to learn something from it, and then kick more ass in Keyforge. It just kind of seems like the Jesus thing to do. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and slide into the playmat of Truth and Justice, and let's talk about the deck that I use in the tournament, my very, very first TCG tournament ever. And just a few thoughts on the deck that I picked up. So here is the Archon card, and so the houses are going to be Shadow, Untamed, and Logos. Really solid combo in my opinion of cards, and I love it when I can find decks that are similar. This one in particular has a really crazy Logos engine, which we'll totally get into in just a second here. So the meat and potatoes of it, of course, when you have a time travel deck, is your really awesome time traveler. It just adds to the draw of the deck and getting more cards and hell of amber generation. Now, when I first got the deck, I was really excited to see time traveler. I actually had no idea this card really existed beforehand. Before when I got it, this was the third deck that I opened at my local launch event, and I was like, oh, it even comes with a cool little assist card, which I didn't know about, Help from Future Self, and it makes you feel like a protagonist when you have such a badass card. This is my Dark Magician, and it makes me feel good. So, I don't know how else to explain that. Comparing Keyforge to an anime is a totally another video, but you ever kind of remember in animes and shows about card games how everyone had a different deck? That's how Keyforge kind of makes me feel in that regard. So we're going to go to the Logos cards, we're going to go to the Untamed, we're going to go through the Shadow, and then we're just going to talk about what I was looking for as far as a deck that I want to play. This was a deck that I played the most, but I also played a bunch of other decks that I thought were really good, but this is the one I ended up going with because of the reasons I'm about to show here. When you play Time Traveler, you do get an amber for it, and then for those who don't know, amber is the win condition, you get 6 amber, you forge a key. That's simple. Just simply playing him, I get an amber for that, which is 1 more amber towards my 6 amber towards my key, right? But also as a bonus, I can draw 2 cards. So playing him allows me to draw 2, and that's always great. I feel like Keyforge is a game that, I don't know if anyone really talks about card advantage. People talk about card advantage in Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. The minimum hand count in Keyforge at the end of your turn, you always draw back up to 6 every single time. So in this regard, since everyone's drawing always back up to 6, you're kind of basically adding cards to when you look at your hand, you can basically figure out the combos in your hand, and that's why sometimes Keyforge kind of feels like a combo game to me. Sometimes, not with every deck, but it's figuring out what combo can I do this turn, and my personal philosophy to generate the most amber, especially when I'm of course on the offensive. All I want to do is generate amber. So with this, I get to draw 2 cards, and also his action, which is, for those who know what actions are, you can reap, which any card can do that, you get an amber, you can attack, and so basically it's an action, so instead of any of that, he can use his action, which he gets shuffled back into the deck, which is actually really good for a myriad of reasons, because then he can come out and do it again, and he can produce your amber again, he can have you draw 2 cards, and he's only a 2 on damage. There's no particular reason to have Time Traveler on the board, unless, if you have enough Logos cards to keep reaping and things like that, I find there's no real reason to keep him on the board. A lot of times I do, because maybe I've already set up my Logos turn, and if I have another Logos turn, then maybe I'll actually return him to my deck, but that's maybe for a different Time Traveler deck. There's actually some reason why I actually let him die. As long as he doesn't get purged or archived, he's great. But if I let him die, there's actually a really good reason, which combos with Help from Future Self. Now, Help from Future Self When you play this card, you get an amber, and once it's played, you search your deck and discard pile for a time traveler. Reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your discard pile into your deck. Now, already great card because you're going and you're grabbing time travel from God knows where he is right now, and pulling them back into your hand, playing them that turn, generating 2 amber, and also getting the 2 card draw, which is really good. But I'll get into why I sometimes let him die instead. Which actually, doesn't really matter. He doesn't actually have to die, but sometimes I'll just use him to reap and just generate amber that way. But I always feel safe that I'll get him back regardless, even after I've played Help From Future Self. There's a whole nother reason. So Doc Bookton, when she reaps, you draw a card. So just great if she doesn't die the turn she's played. You know, she's reaped, and then you're getting an amber, you're drawing a card. So Logos is really has a lot of card draw cards, and that's kind of like their whole thing. So it's always great. Your opponent can't use creatures to fight next turn with Fogify. Get an amber for that. Like you can see, the Logos cards have a lot of easy amber, and I have 2 Fogifies in this deck, which always works out very well. Just getting easy amber. I also want to show I have a Scrambler Storm, which also gives me an amber. So with Scrambler Storm, your opponent can't use actions, which in Keyforge actions are just like spells. And then with Fogify, they can't attack. So it usually helps me keep targets that I want to keep alive, like keeping Doc alive when she's played, if the combo ever presents itself. So we basically talked about Scrambler, we talked about Fogify. Phase Shift, you may play 1 non-Logos card this turn. Always a really good card to extend your combo. So in Keyforge, what a lot of people sometimes like and don't like, they don't like it when they hear it, but they like it in execution when they actually play it. There's no resources. As far as the playing creatures, they don't cost mana or anything. Like that amber, you're gaining an amber. You're not spending amber. There's no mana to play it. Once you just declare a house, so at the beginning of your turn, you'll pick 1 to 3. You'll say that out loud to your opponent, and you can only play and activate cards in that house. So let's say I had a Logos turn. I played Logos cards. With Phase Shift, I'm allowed to play a non-Logos card that turn, which really helps with the creativity of your hand and just playing things that you wouldn't normally be able to play. So that's why Phase Shifts are really good cards, and definitely something I always look out for in decks. Phase Shift just extends the deck tremendously turn by turn, so that's great. Lab Work, again, another really easy amber. Play it, get an amber. You can archive a card. Archiving a card is picking a card from your hand and putting it to the side for later. What this basically does is at the end of your turn, when you draw back up to 6, on your next turn, you can pick up you have to pick up all the cards in your archive. So when you archive cards, you pick them all up. You can add them to your hand, which again is all about extending your combo potential there. Brain Eater, after a creature is destroyed fighting Brain Eater, draw a card. See, a lot of card draws, a lot of amber in the Logos. The Logos set that I got is really crazy. Something that even makes it even crazier. There's a Logos Bad Penny. When Bad Penny is destroyed, she goes back to your hand. And she's a Maverick. Typically, she's a Shadow card, but in this deck, she is a Logos card. And it's a Maverick. And I figured out why Bad Penny's in the deck, which is something I'll probably explain in a different video. Alright, my man's Doc here. You gain 1 amber for each key your opponent has forged. It's a good way to generate a little bit of amber when he's played. If you're falling a little behind, they're 1 key up, just get 1 amber from it. God forbid they're 2 keys ahead of you, but no one's ever won a Keyforge match by quitting. And the last card is Remote Access. Again, gaining an amber, and you can use an opponent's artifact as if it's your own. For those of you who play Magic, artifacts are basically the same thing. Just items that's on the board that do stuff when you tap them. Alright, and next we're going to get into, let's do Shadow. The Shadow cards in here are pretty interesting. So this is Spymaster. Now, just off of just bringing a Spymaster. So Spymaster is elusive. So in a sense, he can take 1 attack before he before he actually takes damage. So basically, 2 creatures will have to attack him. Let's say these 2 cards were here, and they were going to attack Spymaster this turn. You have to attack with 1 of them to get rid of his elusive, and after that, he can take damage. So that's basically what elusive is. But so with Spymaster, we're looking at his Omni ability. Omni means this ability can be used no matter which house you declared. So if I declared Untamed this turn, I can still use Spymaster's ability because it's Omni, meaning all, which means he can basically activate whenever. You can choose a friendly creature. You may use that creature this turn. So that doesn't mean just fighting with him. That means you can reap, you can use his action, any abilities that he may have. He can be used this turn as long as he's not exhausted. So, one of my favorites. He's awesome. So only 1 HP and 1 damage, but he's legendary. I mean, that ability alone is enough, and just keeping him safe and keeping him on the board can lead to ridiculous ideas and combo potential later. Nexus, which is also pretty great against anyone who's using like Lash of Broken Dreams or Broken Dreams, the one that increases your amber, the amount you need to forge a key. Which actually happened in the tournament. They played Lash of Broken Dreams, I activated my Nexus, and Elusive, just like Spymaster, and Reap. Use an opponent's artifact as if it was yours. They had an artifact that every time they would activate it, I believe it added +3 to the amount of amber I need to forge a key. So I played Nexus, and I would just Reap with Nexus to activate that ability and exhaust their artifact, so they couldn't use it on their turn. Because upkeep happens at the end, so when their turn starts, there's no upkeep. They are basically stuck with whatever I just exhausted, and I would just keep doing that, so I didn't have to spend a lot on keys, which was fantastic. Dodger, when he fights, he steals an amber. Stealing an amber is when you just take an amber from your opponent's amber pool that they're building, and you just steal one. Same thing with this guy, just a skirmish. Skirmish is basically like first strike. They just attack first, and they take no damage. Nothing. They take nothing in return, and whenever he fights, he steals one as well. Magda the Rat, elusive. Play, she steals 2 when you play her, but whenever she leaves play for whatever reason, your opponent steals 2 from you. Pawn sacrifice. Sacrifice a friendly creature. If you do, deal 3 damage to 2 creatures. This card works very well with Bat Penny, because you can just kill Bat Penny, send Bat Penny back to your hand, or any other little creatures, and then just deal 3 damage to 2 different creatures. They can even be your own creatures if you want. Nerve Blast, steal 1. If you do, deal 2 damage to a creature. Asp, just a good removal card. If there's anything that has like taunt or something, just play an Asp and just kill it, because he has skirmish, so he doesn't take damage when he attacks, and he has poison, which is death touch. Is whatever he touches, it dies. Another Nerve Blast, Umbra. Urchin, usually a really good target for the Pawn Sacrifice if you're playing them in the same turn. Just Urchin, steal the 1, and then use Pawn Sacrifice if it was something you're trying to kill. That's what I usually do. And Miasma, when you play this, your opponent can't forge a key on their next turn. So those are shadow cards. Love those. Love the Logos a lot more, but the shadow cards are really solid and help support. Usually if someone's getting ahead or anything like that, I don't have a bait and switch. That would make this deck a little too crazy, I think. But other than that, solid cards, a lot of amber generation, because even with Miasma, I get amber just for playing that. Pawn Sacrifice, I get amber for playing that. There's a lot of stealing amber, and just, it's ridiculous. Love it. So, now we have, like, what's strangely kind of more of the support, because I've always felt like Logos was a support class. I'm not really thinking that now. They're definitely, like, at least in this deck, a winning class, like just something you want to definitely play a lot of and be declaring a lot, at least for me. But in this deck, we have, I'll just show you. Curiosity, which destroys a scientist creature, which, that's exactly what Time Traveler is. He's a scientist. So if Time Traveler's on the board, he's probably going to die from that, which is no big deal, to be honest with you. Because you can always get your Time Traveler back, and I'm going to show you how. Curiosity. So you play that, you get your Amber, it kills a scientist, which is probably even good if they have like Mars. Your opponent has Mars cards or some Logos cards and things like that. That's just to have. You get an Amber for it, and even if they don't have it, you don't have it on the board, just play it and get your Amber for it. You can, even if you can't complete the actions that are down here, you can still play a card just for the Amber. So let's say there's no scientist, you can still play it and still get the Amber for it. Witch of the Eye, which is the card I was going to bring up that basically makes me not care how many times I do my combo of Time Traveler and Future Self. So the way this would work is, let's say I had the Time Traveler turn where, okay, I played Time Traveler, drew 2 cards, and yada, let's say I did my action, he went to the graveyard, or he was killed, anything where he's just not in play anymore. Future Self, get the Amber from that, bring Time Traveler back, draw 2 cards, get my Amber for that, and so that combo's basically done, right? It's gone. With Witch of the Eye, return a card from your discard pile to your hand, and that's definitely where a spell or an action will go. Reap of Her, get this back, and then on my next turn, I'm playing this, and I'm doing it again. And as long as she's here, that's a constant, using your Time Traveler just like all the time, drawing cards and generating Amber. This deck is really fast on generating Amber, and this is a combo that totally supports it. It's fantastic. So we're going to throw those back in here, and let's get back to the wild beastly animals. Hunting Witch, which is awesome, paired with a Dust Pixie. But something really crazy about this deck is it has 2 Dust Pixies. So I've actually had the Dream Hand before where I got to play Hunting Witch. And what Hunting Witch does is, every time you play another creature, gain 1 Amber. Awesome, right? With Dust Pixie, when Dust Pixies play, you get 2 Amber. I have 2 of them. Playing these guys, it generates me 6 Amber off rip, paired with Hunting Witch. Because I get a 2 for them, and then 1 extra just for playing them, and that's 6 Amber, and that's checked. It's a great combo. Vigor, you heal up to 3. You heal up to 3 damage from a creature. If they do get healed, you gain 1. You can use this to heal, and you also get an Amber just for playing it. But you can also, just heal an opponent's creature. Doesn't matter. Heal that fucking creature. Get your extra Amber. It's all about Amber. I have a total super philosophy as far as on generating Amber, which we can talk about later. Lost in the Woods, you choose 2 friendly creatures and 2 enemy creatures. Shuffle each chosen creature into its owner's deck. It's really good, especially if you have an empty board, or maybe you just have a Time Traveler or something. Doesn't really matter, just throw that down. Shuffle Time Traveler back, or maybe it's 2 cards you're not really using too much at the moment. But if your opponent has 2 cards that are really annoying, taking care of those. Lost in the Woods to do that. They'll be back again later, but at least you don't deal with them now. That's a job for future you. From your future self. Let me stop. I'm sorry. Oh, that was bad, and you should feel bad. Cooperative hunting, if you're playing a lot of creatures, usually this happens when someone lets my board get out of control and doesn't realize that my deck is 10 times more aggressive than theirs. They usually let my creatures get out of control and go completely unchecked. So cooperative hunting, deal 1 damage for each friendly creature in play. So when it's out of control and I'm playing this, I'm killing almost whatever I want. You may divide this damage among any number of creatures. And there's 2 of those in here, so there have been turns where I've had a bunch of creatures and both these in my hand. And so it's just mayhem on them. Nocturnal Maneuver, exhaust up to 3 creatures. Get an Amber for that too. Great card, definitely always a good play. Never anything wrong with it. Exhaust some creatures that people may be like, let's say they're going to do like a huge reap turn and reap a whole bunch of Amber. Playing this would be a good way to stop it. And trying to get ahead because you're also going to need an Amber for it. Mushroom Man, or as I like to call him, Big Dick Mushroom Man. He comes out, if you have no Keyforge, and he's like an early play, he's an 11. Because Mushroom Man gets +3 power for each unforged key. So that 2 +3 +3 +3 gets up to an 11. He's huge. He's here. He's not zipping up his pants. He's really out here, and he's just a really good beater on maybe things with taunt or something. One of my favorite cards in this whole deck, definitely makes my top 5, is Mimicry. So with Mimicry, when you play this card, treat it as a copy of an action card in your opponent's discard pile. Not only is this card good for just copying like someone's card or anything like that, it also kind of has you think more about their deck. There is a card called Key Charge, which lets you forge a key like when you want in that turn. Like when you play it, you would forge a key at cost. What you can basically do with that, and I don't have that in this deck, but the way I can play with that is, let's say that's somebody's deck and that's what they're going for. They're generating Amber. Normally you forge a key at the beginning of your turn. You can't do it to the next beginning of your turn. With Key Charge, you can just go and do that and then forge a key. So if I can generate a whole bunch of Amber like I can with these, and they don't have a Key Charge and they've used it already, and not to beat me, but use it like to forge their second key, I can copy it and then use it and usually win the game that way with Mimicry. It just presents a whole bunch of options. But so overall, this is the deck that I used to win my I didn't win my first tournament, no, but at least come in 6 out of 18 people, which is not impressive whatsoever. But I still went 3-1, which is great, I think, for like my first event ever. And this is the deck that I used. I'm not saying it's amazing. It's amazing to me, though. It definitely fits me. This is my favorite deck, and I own a ton of decks. I think I own 14 decks at the moment. I know there's some people out there who own way more, but right now I'm just at about 14, and that collection is growing. It's just that, ironically enough, that little company right there is taking forever to actually put out more inventory. I could buy decks for my job. I work at a vape shop, and you know we sell decks there, but you know, I want to keep those there just in case of people who want to get into Keyforge. I'm not really out to hog out every single deck because I already have some really solid decks that are tournament ready. I'm just waiting for the competitive scene to pick up a little bit more. But this is the deck. Enjoyed it, and if you want to check it out, it'll be actually down in the description. You can also go to what's it called? Crucible Online, also link in the description, where you can play the deck online. You just got to get the link for the deck, which is in the description. Then go to Crucible Online, put it in, add it to your account, and then you can play that deck on Crucible Online. Give it a shot, give it a test, see what you think about it, and then it can also help you look for things you want to look for in other decks. There's certain things in this deck that are similar-ish in other decks that I like, and that's usually what I'm looking for when I'm opening up packs. So I made a long-ass video and ramble for an ungodly amount. Oh, so that's the deck. Really like it. I don't know if I'm stressing that enough. Let me add one more really. And like I said, everything's in the link below. You can get the full deck list if you want to see that. You can play it on Crucible Online and try it for yourself, and you can kind of see like the playstyle of it, of a really fast amber generating deck, and looking for decks that might be a bit similar because maybe that's just your playstyle. There's definitely, after playing against a whole bunch of decks and then playing with a whole bunch of my decks, I really realize that there's decks with playstyles, and it's just good to seek out the ones that fit your playstyle and trying new things too also at the same time. So that's everything. I'm gonna go eat Cheez-Its. Very fine though.